Hello fellow YouTubers. This is a bit of a new angle for me. I usually do my stuff from the side, but I noticed a lot of times I get in the way of the camera, so I've attached the camera to a rafter up there. I hope it's safe. Anyway, this is a ML7, Myford ML7 clutch assembly. I took it apart about 5 years ago when I was scrapping a lathe. I had a couple of bits sandblasted, this and the main carrier and the top pulley with a hub in it. They are presently over there because I've painted them with enamel machine paint, and they're drying by the heater. So these are all the parts. That's the main hub, the pulley, so we don't need that anymore. This is the clutch assembly back plate. These are all the parts that go on this end, the lever and all these little bits that go on it. These are the oil black parts. I don't remember how they all actually go on, so we're gonna muddle along in some points. I don't actually remember that part or that one. I think they look to me like they come off an ML7 belt cover, but if there's any left we'll find out, won't we? These are the drums and the parts that go inside the clutch drum, the springs, a couple of little bits and pieces, this little important thing here. These are the shafts. One of these is the pivot shaft for the carrier. One of them, I believe this one with a flat on it, is for the handle which moves the carrier to loosen and tighten the drive belt. This shaft goes in the main shaft here. Now the reason I've put it in this thing is there's nothing technical, it's just that it's going to be easier to hold it. Now this little pin here goes in this. When it's pushed through, this pin goes in there and it then moves up and down in this slot, which limits the movement of this central shaft. So once I've got that in there, I've got to bang this in, probably a bit of Loctite, clean it up a bit first, but that's got to go into there and be banged into place. It's an interference fit. So I didn't want it all moving about, so I've put it on here, put a bit of cardboard underneath and some bits of plastic to hold it. That's just to keep it solid while I'm banging about. This pink stuff is just so that it's easier to see, and hopefully if anything I do drop anything, which I tend to do, it doesn't go bouncing around the workshop too much. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording, I'm going to clear all this stuff out of the way and come back with just this one piece, zoom in on it so you can see what I'm doing, and then start from there. Okay, so when I got this shaft was seized inside that one, and this bush was seized onto here to such a degree that I had to use a blow lamp or some acetylene to heat it up to get it off. So now what I've just done is I've got a reamer 3/8 and just adjustable, and just run it through here to get rid of the burrs. I put this in the lathe and I just went over it with some very fine wet and dry just to make sure all this is clear. So there's another one of them bushes there which is impossible to get to, so I put a wire brush on a drill in and out of there and then rinsed it through to get rid of any debris. So with the average amount of luck and a tiny bit of WD-40, no not WD-40, 3-in-1 oil. I thought about grease, but I thought no, that doesn't seem right. So there you go, so that moves in there like that. Oh, a bit sticky, maybe once we get this bush in. Oh, now it's good. So I don't want that bush coming out again. So what I'm going to do Like I said, I can't remember exactly how this thing went together, so it's quite possible that there's something that holds that in. I can't see it really by looking, so at the moment, just to be on the safe side, put a tiny bit of thread lock in there, push it in place, hold it with my thumbnail, and now that all moves nicely backwards and forwards. So that feels nice now. Yeah, that's pretty good. So, okay. Probably need to clean out with a pin. Right, so next, what have we got next? Oh, I know. So if we're going to push all this lot through to the clutch plate end, could we put the end on? Yeah, I think this one goes on there, like that, and then that goes over there, and then them two things come in from each side and interfere with that, so when you move it backwards and forwards it moves that in and out. But I'm not sure about putting that on yet. So I'm going to leave that for the minute. Now this goes on the end, and there's a corresponding slot to that slot. So I think I'll stop the video and I'll get a few bits ready. Now I'm going to put this little pin in. I'm not sure whether I should put that over there and bang it through there and make it awkward to get to, but if I put it in and it's proud of the surface here, I'm not going to be able to get it into there, so I think I'm just going to have to go for it and find out. Oh yeah, oh it's down, I can see it's down. Oh, and it still moves in and out quite nicely. So as long as I've got it in the right one, yeah, I think that's right. Now there's a little arm that goes in here. It's a very strange affair. It goes in there and it goes like that, and it pushes the clutch arm in and out. Very strange little affair, quite clever. Typical 40s or 50s engineering. So that's that. And now we've got a couple of grub screw marks there, and we've got that bit there. So that bit goes in there. Yeah, there's a grub screw there, so that grub screw holds in. I dare say that's one of these. Now, to clean these up, I put them on the Allen key like that. Now if I had just put it against the wire wheel, then it would have launched across the workshop. So what I did was I held a piece there, so that, and then put it against the wire wheel being here, and then just turned it so that it couldn't ping, and that seems to have worked. So let's get this one in first. Oh. Yeah, it does want to go in. Right, so can't see the other pin at the hole in this light. You certainly won't be able to see it, but it's there. So if that one's right, and then I nick this one up. Oh yeah, I can feel that's gone down now. I've left it slightly loose because I want to get this one to engage in the divot. Just crack it off a tad. Yeah, now that's gone in, I can feel it. That's gone in. So I'll give it a nip, never to be touched again, hopefully. And that's it. Now we've got all that, and that still moves. That still moves inside. Hope you can see that. It actually moves there. So that's the first bit done. Now the second bit is going to be this thing, which goes in there. Now I have just gone round that, put this in the lathe and just cleaned it with a bit of wet and dry, used it dry, and I'm going to stick a dab of grease on there. I thought about copper slip because mostly I'm a mechanic, and I know what copper slip does. If this was a brake on a car, I would be using copper slip. There you go. That goes on that side. Not sure which way it goes actually. Now one of these has a flat on it. It has these two little plastic bits. So if the plastic bit goes on there, I can see from the marks that that's where it went before. That goes like that. I can line that up with that end. So yeah, so that's, I think that's right that way. If you turn it around that way, it's going to be off centre. So a bit fiddly. So I think it goes around that way. Of course, I could be wrong. It's been years, as I said, it's been years since I took this apart, so if you want to tell me I've done it all wrong, fair enough, I'm not an expert. So that bit goes next. Now there's a square on there. And there's a square on there. There's a few burrs on one side of that, so I'm guessing that's the side that used to be out, so I'm going to put them on the back this time. Does it go all the way on? Yes it does, and it all moves around quite nicely. So that goes on there, and then I'm guessing this goes on there, but it's got to be facing a little rod, so it must be there. And then we get one of these things. That's it. So that moves up and down and turns that little doobry, and that makes the little clutch shoes come out and grip the thing. Right, I feel a cup of tea coming on, so I'm going to pause it there. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is put this other one on so I can check that again and make sure it's the right way around. This is just the other post for the brake shoes. It goes in like that. As I recall, that washer goes in first, and then this goes on the other end. A bit fiddly because it's in a recess. Now, because them items have been oil blacked, they were a bit stiff, so I wound the nut on first. And it was a bit stiff, but after I wound it on and off a couple of times, it started to work properly. So yep, that's it, that's on there. Okay, so stick it up there again. Put the little rubber on the thing. So if that one's opposite the slot, it's that way around, and that's that way around. Yeah, that looks right to me. So you can see there what happens. The arm goes like that, and obviously the little brake shoe, or clutch shoe in this case, comes out. You wouldn't think that'd be long enough, would you? But with this thing screwed in, and the little rod coming out of there, that bit, when it's pushed right in, then it will be right. So, got them there. This one, got another one there, a little rubber bit that goes on. Well, as you might have noticed there, just after the phone rang and broke my train of thought, one of these little black things didn't fit into there. Didn't fit in between the two sides of the cam. So I've got a little file out, and I filed off a little burr that was on there. So now hopefully, yeah, still a bit dodgy. There you go. Now, as you might have heard by the sound of that file, this seems to be like really quite a hardened material. Now, these were a tiny bit greasy, so I'll give them a clean up with a bit of emery, but I did that outside because you can almost guarantee these, like the old car brakes, would be asbestos, I'm pretty sure. So we've got a couple of springly dinglies. I'm going to try and do this how I do brake shoes on a car, which is put them in that side. And then click it in like that. Now that's worked on that side alright, but I bet it's not going to be easy the other side. Now, the one thing you really don't want to do Let's do this with long nose pliers. As my mate One-Eyed John will tell you. So called because a set of long nose pliers. He was in the wrong scope and he was pulling a spring and it let go and it got him. So that's that. And that's that. So there you go. I hope you can see that there. That's how that operates. Now, I've got to get a little doobry in there. Tiny bit of greasiness, if you don't mind. That goes in there. And then this screws down. Again, the thread's a little bit tight because it's all this stuff has been oil blacked, or gunmetal blacked, or whatever you like to call it. So let me get a pair of long nose pliers. Obviously not to pull any springs around, we don't want to do that, but just to get that in there like that. Now, so once that little rod's in there and that moves back with the foot. So it's all back together. A couple of amendments I'd like to make. Let's see if you can see that here. And that is the springs on the little brake shoes, clutch shoes, have to be inside the shoe. Otherwise it pulls the shoe like that away from the back plate. And this way, with the springs inside, like on a car, back brakes, it pulls it towards the back plate. The other thing is, these particular shoes on my clutch, I don't know about on all of them, but they were flat against the brake shoe on one side and not flat against the brake shoe on this side. So this side they stand a little bit proud. So I've just randomly put them the other way, and it was holding the shoe away from the back plate, which you don't want. Then I noticed that they were flat, and I turned it around that way. So turn the shoes around the other way, put the flat against the back plate, and put the springs on the inside, basically. So that's all done. This is the mechanism that works. It's very clever, really. The little, see, when I put it like that, try and do it without moving it for the camera. That little rod, I'm not sure you can see that, not only does it compensate for movement this way and that way, but it gives an over center effect. So there it wants to pull back there, but there it locks, and that compensates for these springs wanting to go into the off position where you'd have no drive. So that's all back together. That's how it works. I hope you can see that. And then once this is in the drum, we adjust this to take up the slack till it's just biting on the drum, put it back a little bit, and then the smallest amount of movement that you get from here should take up the slack. So when this is all on the other end, that little bit of movement should all work. So I'll be back in a minute when I've picked up the bits from over there, and I'll put the drum on and then the carrier. Right, so here's the next part. Here's the freshly painted and cleaned out clutch hub and drive pulley, main pulley, and that simply slides over here. Now when you pull this, which would represent the movement of this lever, it clicks like that, but it's not engaged. It's not engaged with the wheel, so it has to be adjusted so the clutch shoes go nearer to the brake drum. Now an easy way to do this is leave it in the engaged position and turn it till it stops, and then there you go, it's locked on now. Now does that disconnect? Push the lever in, yeah, it's disconnected. So locked, disconnected, and we can still slide this off, so I know it's not binding. And now all I've got to do is lock up that little 7/16 nut, and then that. So that's how you adjust it. It's just a simple method of that. You could do it in either position, I suppose. In the off position you could just keep doing it and then pulling it on until it hit, but I think the easiest way is to put it in the engaged position, turn it until it locks. See, yeah, it's still there, so you don't need to do it too much. That's not locked. That one turn, definitely locked. And once that's on there, don't forget you can still get to it with the cover open and do any fine adjustments that you might need to. Hold the middle, give that just a tiny nip, we don't need to go too mad. There you go, see, off, free spinning, on, engaged. So now I'm just going to put all these bits back together. Unfortunately I've got one of these things missing, so I don't know whether to make one or see if I've got one lying around somewhere, and if not I might well have to buy one, which is a bit annoying because my intention is to sell this on eBay once it's all done. So I'm going to have a look at that for now, and then I'll come back when I've got all this back together. You don't need to see that. Basically that goes there, the pulley goes in the middle, one washer goes there, these bars go through there, and then these little bits go in there with the nut at the top. This goes on the end, and then that. But I'll put that together in a minute. I'm just going to see if I can find the other one of these anti-rattle bushes. Okay, went on to the lathe, went through my little box of Delron and nylon stuff, found a piece. It was a big nut actually, so I just turned all the thread out of it, turned it up to roughly the same size as this one, didn't go too mad, as long as that width and that width is the same. Should fit onto someone's belt guard and stop it rattling. So now what I've done here is I've marked there and there, and that's because when this thing goes on, it's got a grub screw there and a grub screw there, and although they look a lot apart, once you look inside there where they meet in the middle, it does line up with these two flats here, and that stops it spinning round. So what I did is I put it on there, I put it roughly, just tightened it up so I could click click click, make sure it was in line with one of these, and then I marked where it would end up. So then once I put this on here, I'm going to have a rough idea of where the pulley goes. So all that goes on here is a felty type washer, then one of these, then oh, better just check my lathe. Yeah, the thin end goes that way. Good job I checked that. But mine's a Super 7. Let's hope they haven't changed it, because this is for an ML7. So there's the line for that one. So I'll put it down there. Yeah, you can see it's there, so it's there in the middle. Let's give that tiny nip. And give that one a tiny nip, because whoever's going to buy this might have to adjust it slightly to fit their lathe. Yeah. Don't seem very tight, does it? Give that a bit more of a nip. There you go. So got a couple of oiling nipples to go in there, which can't find at the moment. So they'll have to be either found or purchased. And this bit goes on the end. That'll have to be tightened up. There we go, that's not engaged. That is engaged. There you go. And this, just got a grub screw there. You can see the mark where it used to be, goes there. These two little adjuster rods go in there. And then operate the clutch. But before I do that, I think I'm going to paint this one, because I've got a little bit of paint left. And although it's had paint stripper on it and every last smidgen of paint has been got off it, I just think it would look better if it was the same colour as the rest of it. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put it on there. So far, if you're just looking at how an ML7 clutch goes back together, I haven't seen many or any clips on YouTube, so I thought I would do this one while I'm doing this. Obviously when I come across it, having left it for many years, I thought, well, where do I do this? I'll go on YouTube and have a look, but there was none on there. So hopefully anyone else coming across this thinking, how does that go apart, how does that go back together or come apart, now they can have a look. And hopefully in time someone who's got better editing skills than me will be able to do it quicker, shorter and better. Anyway, I'll stop it there for now and I'll paint that on a bit. Well, there it is, all back together. The end bit's painted. There's this little collar that goes in. Got a grub screw there, I don't know if you can see that. It's got a grub screw there, the little collar goes on, and that adjusts the end float, which you need a tiny bit of because you don't want it binding. that's on there, the handle's on, hook's on the little bronze bit there. That's engaged, disengaged. So everything's all done. I all blacked these and that. I had to make up, I couldn't find another one of them little nuts, so I had to make up one of them, quarter BSF. And I've just put the rod in there temporarily with a grub screw, because I'm going to sell it on eBay and I want him to have all the bits that come with it. I've got this, which I think is the other rod, but it hasn't got the flats for these two things. But whatever it is, I'm going to sell it with it, just in case someone needs it. So that's my story. That's my ML7 old style clutch with the NSU quickly brake shoes in it, apparently. All done up, everything nice and good, no rattles, no bangs, everything functioning properly, and eBay, here we come. Thank you for watching my vid. See you soon.